So guys, today I'm going to do a video on Assassin's Creed Odyssey with the Steam Deck, and we're going to be starting it off with 800p on the lowest settings. Alright, let's jump into it. These are the settings. Alright, so I've spent about an hour playing this game in the campaign mode, and I've spent a bit of time going through the discovery mode as well, looking at the areas, seeing how it runs, and this area is pretty intensive, so I'm going to be sticking around here for a little bit. But as you can see on the lowest settings, we are able to get 60 FPS in those lighter scenes, like this area here. But as you can see, once I go over this hill and look over the map, we see a pretty massive FPS drop right here. Look at that, 50 FPS, dropping down into the 40s even. So this game is pretty similar to AC Odyssey, very CPU intensive. That's the case with most open world games, and this game is no different. Now the quality of the game is quite good at low settings. Everything looks pretty sharp on the Steam Deck screen. Some textures do look a bit blurry as well. The rock texture especially is looking kind of blurry. And just keep in mind that the game looks far better on the Steam Deck screen since it's smaller compared to what you're seeing with the screen recording on your monitor. The game runs well for the most part. There's not really any stuttering unless you fall down into the 40s. That's when you start feeling it quite heavily, but that can be easily fixed by you capping the FPS to 40 or even 30. Alright, I'm gonna go and push it up to medium settings. Normally it crashes when I go from low to medium in this game, or medium to low. So we'll see if this happens again, but normally this is the case where it just crashes. Now this is medium settings. Now I'm gonna go ahead and restart the game. Yeah, so the game crashed from low to medium, and this happens every single time. So just keep in mind that if you're playing the game at low settings and you push it up to above medium, on your first boot the game will crash. So you just gotta restart it up and the game will be opening up fine and it will run fine as well. Medium settings, we are on the edge of 60 now, away from the city. Game is not really stuttering or anything like that, it's running quite fine, but I've already played a little bit at medium settings, so I know the limits of it. We are going to be able to fall down into the 30s occasionally, so if I can find the city again, where was that at? I think it's over here, yep. As you can see already in the jungle, we're getting 43 FPS, so as you would expect, once we go near the city, we're going to fall down into the 30s. I think regardless of this game, a 30 FPS cap is ideal. You can use 40 FPS if you want, but you can get a far better looking game by just increasing the quality and playing at 30 FPS instead. Now the quality increase from low to medium is quite high, so those blurry textures that we had at low settings aren't really an issue anymore. The rock textures are looking quite good, and as you can see, even in the replay on the big monitor, the game does look quite good, and even better on the Steam Deck screen since it's way smaller. Now since the FPS is uncapped, we're going to be pulling around 28 to 27 watts of power, which will give us around an hour and a half of battery life. Alright, it's going to push it up to the high preset now. There we go. Gonna play the settings and come right back. Alright, now playing the game at the high preset. Let's see how we can do. I've never played the high preset yet. This is my first time trying out the high preset. You can see the game stutters or has massive FPS drops, which seems to be the case so far. We're already falling down into the 30s. Sitting in the mid 30s here looking at those trees. Obviously very intensive with all the foliage. It's fair enough. Let's go ahead and leave up here though. See what our max FPS is going to be while free roaming. We're going to be the mid to low 50s, I would guess. And not quite, almost though. We are sitting in the high 40s, almost into the low 50s. Wow, falling to the low 40s regardless. This is crazy. Quality increase from medium to high isn't really that big. I can't really see too much of a difference compared to medium settings. I think medium settings will be the ideal way to go for this game. Or a mix of medium to low settings. I would increase the texture quality probably from low to medium. And the rest of the stuff I can probably keep on low to get the most FPS out of it. Alright, let's go and run towards the city again. Please don't attack me. Getting a couple of stutters while fighting. Probably due to the uncapped frame rate though, if I was going to guess. Alright, let's go ahead and walk up a little bit. Alright, running up to the city. What are we getting? 34 FPS. Well, the game feels very stuttery at this point. So yeah, ideally I would go with a 30 FPS cap at this point. You can get 40 to 50 FPS still. But again, on those heavier scenes, which is pretty common at this point, you're going to be falling down into the low to mid 30s. Alright, finally let's go ahead and push it up to the ultra preset, and then you can go ahead and do the optimized settings and the portable and docked settings as well. I'm probably not going to do the ultra preset just because it'll be too intensive for the Steam Deck anyway. It's not very realistic with this kind of system. So very high is the max I'm going to push it. This is going to be the edge of 30 pretty much, falling down to the 20s I would guess, since that was the case with the high settings. Alright, looking back at the trees. Yeah, 32 FPS. quite bad. Well, it's not that bad, I guess. You can go with a 30 FPS cap and still be fine. But the quality differences between the high and very high to medium are very small. So on the Steam Deck screen, it's very hard to tell the difference since everything's so small. But obviously on a monitor, it will look far more obvious and it might be worthwhile to use the higher presets. Okay, here's my optimized settings. Alright, we're sitting in the 50s now in this jungle-ish area, dropping down to the 40s. I think with this preset you can get away with playing the game at 40 FPS. But again, ideally I would just go with a 30 FPS cap so you can have the most consistent experience possible. Up here we're getting almost 70 FPS, which is quite fantastic. Way above the 60 FPS mark. Alright, looking over the city, what can we get? Ooh, falling down to the 30s unfortunately. So yeah, with these settings you're going to be getting a mostly 40 FPS experience, which jumps up to the 50s and 60s and dips into the high 30s. And for portable play, I decided to go with a 30 FPS cap and an 8 watt TDP limit, as you can see, which will result in us only using 14 watts of power, which again will mean we'll get around 2 hours and 50 minutes of battery life, almost 3 hours of battery life pretty much. So basically we're matching the base Switch in those more demanding games for battery life. I'm gonna go ahead and look over the city real quick, and again, holding 30 FPS quite easily. We might fall down into the high 20s or even the mid 20s in those super demanding scenes. So if you want to have a consistent 30 all the time, then go ahead and remove the TDP limit or even increase it a little bit up to 10 to 11 watts. So playing the game at 1080p now, gonna be using the optimized settings still, just a mix of medium to low settings. And let's see how it runs in dock mode. Running quite good, no FSR needed yet. Playing the game at 1440p and 4K will be pretty much unplayable, so I'm probably going to be avoiding those for this video. But at 1080p with optimized settings, we are able to get a mostly 30 FPS experience with spikes up to the 40s. But again, at this point, I would go with a 30 FPS cap to avoid any stuttering or any possible lag spikes. Right, I'm going to go ahead and run it down to the city. See if we'll get any dips into the 20s. Might still happen. We're very close to that 30 FPS limit, so wouldn't surprise me if it does. You've got 25 FPS looking over the map, so even at 1080p we are struggling to hold a stable 30, unfortunately. But you can always go ahead and drop the settings down a little bit more to low settings and gain those couple of extra frames back. What if I drop it down to 90% resolution modifier? Okay. Can we get 30 now? There we go, we're getting a mostly 30 FPS now. I've gone ahead and dropped the resolution scaler down to 90%. So it's not a full 1080p, but the game still does look quite good, and FPS is able to hold 30 FPS for the most part. Alright, looking good. That's it for the video, guys. If you made it this far, appreciate you. As always, if you like what you see, then a like and sub to the channel as well. See you next time.